From the studios of the Pemberton Township Board of Education's Channel 14, it's time to find out what's cooking. Here now is the head of the Food Services Department at Pemberton Township High School and your host, Tim Paroli.
Hello again, and welcome to What's Cooking. I'm Tim Paroli, and today we're going to teach you how to make omelets. Yeah, I know. You've seen them before. You watch people turn them. You just can't get the hang of it. After we show you today a little bit of practice, you're going to be an old hand at it, because the entire secret to doing the omelets is preparation. When you're all ready, all you have to do is follow our simple steps, and we're going to show you 3 different ways to make them. You're going to have it made in the shade. What you have on your side today that a lot of the chefs did not have is this product that is on the inside of this pan called Silverstone. Originally it was Teflon. The problem with the Teflon was that some things did stick. Sometimes the Teflon didn't stay in the pan. However, now pans, egg pans, are of such a good grade and a high quality. They're also so affordable, you've got to have one. Once you've got your egg pan, here's what you're going to do. This is the size pan that you want. You don't need one any larger than this. Any larger than this, and you may have a problem with trying to turn it. This pan is between 6 to 8 inches in diameter. So you want a 6 to 8 inch saute pan, and that's exactly what this is, and that's what you want to purchase. Now I'm going to set that here on the fire just to warm it up so we have that ready to go. But I want to talk to you first about eggs, because we use eggs for many, many things. Now commercially, when we purchase eggs, they come in a half case. And a half case of eggs for us is 15 dozen. They come in flats like this, a whole case being 30 dozen with double rows of the stacks like this. And this is called a flat of eggs, and that contains about 30. This is how commercially eggs are purchased, and many times eggs are shipped. They're not always shipped in the small dozen containers that we see. Bulk eggs can be shipped just like that, 30 dozen to a crate. So commercially, how do you know if the eggs you're getting are fresh and if they're going to be right for what you want to do? What you need is a little bowl like this called a nappy or a monkey dish. Commercially, they're used for desserts and side dishes. A small cereal bowl will work fine. And you want to, when you purchase the egg should look nice. Everybody, when they open them, they check them, make sure they're not broken. That's very important, because that has a lot to do with the purity of the egg. We crack the egg, and you want to take a look at how the egg appears in a bowl. And we're going to put 2 of them here, because most of the time there will be a difference in them. And these happen to be no exception to the rule. When you break an egg and you take a look at it, the one right here is a lot flatter in appearance than this egg, even though they're from the same flat. So this egg right here is a lot fresher, because the yolk, which is comprised of mostly fat, is high and round and has a nice even yellow color to it. This egg is a little flatter. The yellow is not as consistent all the way across, and also it has a flatter appearance to it. This egg on the right, my right, also has a better, firmer looking white to it than this one on the left. Now, if you're in the habit of eating raw eggs, pay very close attention. This egg is a little older than this one, so you want to know that an egg you get is strictly fresh. The yolk sits nice and high, the white has a lot of body to it. You see, it doesn't break, and it's going to hold up. That lets you know the eggs you're using are fresh. So for omelets, we use 2. And we have our eggs prepared, set up, ready to go. Another nice looking egg. And it sounds kind of funny. Well, gee, I'd know an egg it was lousy. I would know right away. But if you're trying to do a fried egg and the eggs themselves are not as fresh as they should be, every egg you break, the yolk is going to break. So if you have a problem with when you do eggs that you break the yolks all the time, you're doing something wrong. Unless if you hit the egg on a flat surface like I did, the yolk should not break. If the yolk continues to break and it's kind of thin looking, the eggs are not fresh. So now you have an idea how to tell how fresh an egg should look. The other part, people always ask me, what's that white thing hanging on the yolk of the egg? That's called an anchor, and that keeps the yolk in position in the center of the egg if it was going to be hatched, if it was a fertile egg. Most commercial eggs we buy, however, are not. One other point that I want to give you about handling the eggs, they will cook faster. If you're going to do a lot of eggs, you would want them out the night before because you're going to run through half a case of eggs with no problem. But for home use, the rush isn't usually too bad, and we can cook them right out of the refrigerator. Now we want to get prepared to make up an omelet. And an omelet is nothing more than a beaten egg with a filling. And I have here some shredded yellow American. We've discussed different cheeses before on the program, and a cheddar is kind of okay. Its taste is nice, but it's kind of tough to cook with, a real cheddar. So if you like the taste of cheddar, put 1/3 cheddar to 2/3 American. Buy the yellow American like I have here, and you won't be able to tell the difference. Bacon or bacon bits is also another filling for an omelet. And we're going to set up some onion for an omelet, and we're going to set up, I'm going to get these eggs out of the way here because we're going to come right back to them. We're going to set up for a Western omelet. And what we're going to do with this onion is we're going to cut almost through the onion. Now, you've seen us do onions on the program. You know that one end is where the stem grows. That's the end that we're cutting. I'm getting my hand out of the way as I cut through the rest of it. And they're all nice, long, thin cuts that I just made. I didn't go completely through the onion, so the onion will hold together. And now I'm going to cut these very small. Now, the reason we want these cut so small is the cooking time for an omelet is very short. Remember, we've got a saute pan, and you know that the saute pan is for cooking something lightly and quickly in a small amount of fat. So that is going to hold true for our eggs, and we want to make sure that the ingredients we're using are either pre-cooked slightly or that they're cut small enough that by the time we cook the egg, we have got the filling is cooked. So we've got our onion, and that's going right out there to the edge of the board. You know, I found that most people buy a cutting board, they buy them too small because a lot of us have a tendency to set things on our cutting board. And if your cutting board is very small, as soon as you set 2 things on your board, you have no more room to work. And in a kitchen, if it's not a real big kitchen, you can set these items like I'm going to do right up on the board. And you work right off the board, and when you're done, the board goes right over to the sink and you're in business. Everything is cleaned up. So it's going to give you portability, but also make sure your board is a decent size. The peppers are going to be no exception. We're going to cut them in half like I just did. And now I'm taking my time and cutting these nice and thin. And I like to cut the pepper from the inside out because my knives are usually pretty sharp, but not always. And the pepper is much easier to cut from this way than it is from the skin side out. It's also a lot safer to hold. And once the knife has started cutting into the pepper, it's going to stay on its mark and go straight through. So we cut the peppers from the inside out once we've halved the pepper and taken out the seeds. So we take our long strips of pepper and we're going to cut them up nice and small also. And again, the smaller I cut these, the quicker they're going to cook. Also, if I'm using these nice and fresh, they're going to contain a color from the beginning, and they're not pre-cooked like these peppers won't be. They're going to be cooked right in the omelet pan, so the taste of the pepper is going to be very fresh, and that's what we're after. So now I've got the pepper cut up, and that's going up over here. And then we're going to put a little something for an omelet filling is a tomato. And they're very nice. I've noticed a lot of people are eating foods that are a lot more fresh, a lot better tasting, they're finding out. Gee, I never knew that this food could taste like that, because most of us have never had them fresh. Now we're going to just wedge that tomato. I'm going to take out the core and lay it on its flat side. And we're going to do the same thing as we did with our other fillings. And we're going to cut these nice and thin. And now the tomato is not as tough as the other one, so we're going to just kind of cut that once. And they're going to be a little larger. So we take the core out and we cut through and we lay them on their flat side and we just cut them again. So we've got some tomato cut for that. And then we're going to take some mushrooms. Fresh mushrooms are probably the only food item that I know that has not changed in the last 5 years. I mean, the price of mushrooms has stayed so steady, it's ridiculous. So buy them fresh if you live in our area, and use them fresh because they cook very quickly. These we're going to cut nice and thin. Other programs we've shown you, we cut them a little thicker. This is where you can practice maybe on that new knife. Make sure that you keep your thumb on the top of the mushroom, but behind your other two fingers, and don't raise the knife any higher than the top of the mushroom, and just cut right straight down like that. And you won't have any problems at all. You'll cut only mushroom. However, when you're cutting mushrooms, make sure that you have about double the amount by volume as you see on the board here, because the mushrooms themselves are going to cook way down. So we're getting our ingredients all set up, and we have our cutting board all ready, and I've got all the ingredients all set to go. These are going to go together very easily, and once I clean up this area here and get it completely set up with some plates, we're going to show you 3 ways to prepare omelets, and the 3 cooking styles. Out of those, you'll be able to pick which one is the easiest for you, and then you can practice on the other 2 as you go along. So while I get us all ready to cook, I'd like you folks at home to watch this.
He protects all living things in the forest. But he can't do it alone. Please don't play with matches. Put out your campfires. And never, ever forget the words of Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
Welcome back. What we have now, a complete setup. I've got 2 pans. All on the cutting board is the fillings for the omelets. The eggs are over here. The plates are here. The only thing I didn't explain to you is some salt and pepper. I know, big deal, right? As long as we show you the important stuff. What we have here is some oil and some butter. Now, omelets are very good for entertaining, and as we move along, I'll show that to you. That, you know, with just this little bit of preparation, you can make a lot of guests happy. And once you learn how to flip an omelet, you'll be able to astound your guests, we hope. Now, we're going to put a little bit of fat in the bottom of the pan. The butter has always been used in eggs, mainly because of the flavor it is able to impart. And when we're cooking eggs, we want some flavor in there. However, many of us now are conscious of what we're eating, and we try not to indulge with too much butter. So what a lot of establishments do now is they'll put a little butter like I did right in that pan, and then we'll put a little bit of oil in there. Now what that does is it's going to allow us the flavor of the butter, and it is also going to keep the butter from burning as we get the temperature high enough to where we want it. Now, 3 ways to make omelets. The first way is when you cook the omelet in the pan and you fold it kind of like a business envelope. And if you don't know what a business envelope is, you fold the top third towards you, the bottom third away from you, and then we let that omelet cook till it's slightly browned. We flip the omelet over onto a plate and we serve it with the brown side up. All right? So once we have that down, we turn our fire up and our eggs go in there. Now, with the egg in the bottom of the pan, you see you don't have to panic and you don't have to start moving it right away. We're going to very gently, let me move that with a spoon, it's a little easier for me. We're going to move the entire omelet from the bottom of the pan right like that. Now you see I've pulled that whole section of the omelet there up towards me, and the rest of the uncooked egg went that way. Now we're going to do the same thing the other way and push it back. And till we have enough of the egg in there, we're going to put just a little more. Now what that has done has partially cooked the egg. We're going to season this one because this is plain. We're going to show you how to cook this one. And then you're going to take it and very gently flip the 1/3 towards you, just like that. When you do that, some of the egg will run out. That's fine. Let it run out, and then we can take and bring the bottom half up like that and let that brown. Now that's all you'd have to do for this omelet. Just like that, we let that bottom part cook till it's slightly brown, and then we'll turn that, make sure that omelet's loose in the pan, and then you turn the omelet out just like this. Okay? And we have that, it's fluffy and it's brown, and that's what we're after. So that's the first way that you cook an omelet. Now we're going to switch the pan here because 2 pans, if you're entertaining, you'll have the pan temperature will be very consistent, and it's going to give you plenty of time to crack a couple more eggs. Now the second way that we do an omelet is very similar to the first, except that all we're going to do is fold it in half. Now, since we're going to do a second type of cooking an omelet, and you already from watching know how to cook an omelet, we're going to put a little filling to this one. But I'm going to change what we would normally do with this. We roll the fat around in the pan, and we're going to put a little bit of onion in this one. But I'm putting the onion in there first because since this omelet is only going to be folded in half, I want the onion to kind of be the garnish on the top. So I let them fry just a little bit. They turn clear, and now I'm going to pour the egg all around on the onion so that I don't push it all to one spot. If you just dump it right in there, you'll slide all the onion to one side, and then you won't have any of the onion where you wanted it. And then again, the procedure here is very similar. We're going to just pull the cooked portion from one side to the other. And once we have the egg approximately halfway cooked, now we're going to put in some of the other onion. And this omelet will be considered a filled omelet. I know, I heard you out there. You're saying, yeah, you know what you need in there? Just a little bit of that. Okay, so we fill that, and then we gently are going to just pull that omelet right in half. Now you're saying, yeah, sure, look how easy it is. It doesn't just look this easy, it really is this easy. And we're going to let that half cook right in there. You'll see we have kind of a half moon shape to the omelet. And by doing this, we have sealed in the uncooked portion of the egg in the omelet pan. And that's going to make that fluff up as it catches the steam or anything that tries to escape from there. So we've got a plain one there, and now we're going to turn this one out. Now to turn it out, we just tip the pan and send it right over like that, and it should have a nice color on the bottom. All right? So we're going to tuck that one over there. And filled omelets will always look the same on the outside. They shouldn't look any different than these omelets look. And the only way to know what's inside them is once you cut into them. However, there is an omelet that's a bit different, and that's a Western. And a Western uses peppers and onions in it, and they go right in there. And these can be made very colorful. And the reason that this omelet is a little different is because this omelet is not going to be a filled omelet. And this is going to be the third way we cook it. Remember, the first one is 2 folds, and it looks the same on the plate. The ends are pointed just how they're supposed to be. The other one we folded just once, and it's got the brown side up, and it's kind of half moon shaped with 2 pointed ends to hold the filling from running out. Well, now we have this one, and the third way to cook an omelet, and this is probably the one that most people see and they're nervous about. This one we're going to kind of roll a little bit like a cigar. And there's a couple of ways of doing that. First, we mix our peppers and onions in there. And so that now is not a filled omelet. It has all of that throughout, and the color is going to be right through the egg and right in on the bottom. Now I'm going to tip that away from me and tip it by holding the cooked portion. I'm letting the raw portion of the egg flow down into the pan. And this is going to make the omelet larger in the bottom of the pan. And then all we're going to do is begin little series of flips with this, like that. So if you're afraid to flip the whole omelet over at one shot, just take that and do that little tiny flip on it, and another one, just like that. Okay? And then as we get to the last part, and we're going to flip it once more. And now the omelet has the same shape as the first ones we prepared. However, we didn't have to try and flip an entire omelet over, and we're not splashing ourselves with hot oil and hot butter and hot eggs. And it's actually, what I'm showing you today is the correct procedure for preparing omelets with 3 different cooking styles. So not only is it the way to make them all look the same while cooking them in a different way, it's also very safe for you to do at home. And then once we have that omelet fried like that, we tip it off the same way. And again, it has that half moon shape, and the 2 corners are pointed, and that's holding in just the way we want it. Now we're going to run out of room here, but that's fine. I'll have to get help eating these afterwards. I said that these are fun when you're entertaining, because once you can flip the omelets, you don't have a hard time at all. And once you know now that flipping the omelet is a matter of what you want to do, whether you're going to use the envelope or business envelope method, which is a 3-fold, or you're going to fold it in half, or you're going to go with the cigar type way, which is probably a good way for you to show off, because all you do is put a series of little flips in with your eggs, and you can work it out just like that and end up with the same shape. Now, on a filled omelet that you're going to use and decorate, what you want to do is set it up just like we normally do. I'm going to try to put as much of the wet portion of the egg all around the pan, so that by now we've cooked over 2/3 of the egg right in the pan. And now we're going to put our filling in that. And a cheese omelet is one that most people have trouble with, because they don't want to get the cheese all over in the pan. So what we do with that is you just put the omelet in the pan like I have right there, and we let that stay in the pan until we've browned it, and then we just give it a half of a flip. And that's all you've got to do with it. Once you've got the one side of this omelet up, you're going to see that it's brown, and you're going to see that you can also just tip it right out and right over, just like that. And it's going to come out nice and easy. And you're going to notice that inside the bottom of your pan, there's going to be no melted cheese sticking in there, giving you a tough time. If you don't have a Teflon type pan, you'll want to make sure that you do the cheese omelets in the method that we've described to you here. We're going to do one more so you got the idea that the omelet is not that difficult to do. I have a lot of people that have told me that they'll try fried eggs and everything else, but they're scared to death to try these. And you can see that they're very, very simple to do. This last one is a very fresh tasting omelet. And this one, we're going to put this all on the outside, and we're going to season this. Now, a Spanish omelet is done with a plain egg omelet, just the way we've made them here today, only it gets a Spanish sauce in it, which is a cooked tomato sauce inside of it. We're going to do this a little different. As I told you before, cooking a Spanish omelet, the sauce takes almost an hour to prepare it. You can set one very similar to it by cooking these ingredients right here, and then we put the egg all around that, and then we're going to place inside of that some of our sliced tomato, just like that. And then that's going to be one that is folded, and you're going to find that as that cooks, we're going to just shake that so we make sure it cooks, that the center of that is going to have, from cooking that tomato, its own kind of a sauce. Put a couple of them in there just to spice things up. And that'll be our last omelet that we'll do for you. All right, and we're going to push that omelet forward and run that back over. So you see the size of the pan really doesn't determine the size of the omelet. It's how much of that you move around. All right, so we're giving that a partial fold that way, and we're going to just let that cook right off. And you want to make sure that the bottom of that is brown and crispy as you cook it. And that's what's going to add the color, and it's going to make them look a lot better. So once we have that all browned up, you can see that with a little bit of preparation, and really only one cooking method, you can make a varied array of food that has got to please anybody that shows up. It's also a great way to feed people early in the morning or for a lunch or a brunch. So for What's Cooking, I'm Tim Paroli. Thanks for watching.
Imagine this. A centrally located playground, designed and built by children and adults in our community. A place for our community members to mingle and for their kids to meet and play with old and new friends. This video shows Pemberton Township kids playing and having fun at the Imagination Kingdom in Tabernacle. Imagination Kingdom is a non-profit organization formed to create a community-built playground right here in Pemberton Township. The concept allows parents and students, family and community members to work together in the design, fundraising, and construction of a playground. Wouldn't you like to be a part of the community spirit? A spirit to build a unique play area for our kids? Be a part of this exciting project. For further information, call Vicki at 893-3195 and watch Channel 14 in the Community News for information on this exciting project.
You're gonna be better than me, Christopher. I can see it in your eyes. No wasting your life on something you hate. Not for my son. You're going to college. I can see it in your eyes.
I can see it in your eyes. You are going to do something important.
Christopher, time for work.
We've always had the dreams. Now we have the means. Please, support the United Negro College Fund.
You're watching Channel 14.
Pemberton Township Board of Education Television.